We keep saying we have a NEET problem. You know, more than 1 million young people in the UK, NEET standing for not in education, employment or training. And around that we talk about confidence, motivation, CVs, interview skills, work readiness, resilience. And I keep thinking, what if we're looking at only just half the problem? Because while we're spending all this time asking how do we make young people ready for work, I want to ask another question. How ready is work for them? And more specifically, how easy have we actually made it for somebody to get through the front door? Because you can spend months helping somebody become quote unquote job ready and then send them straight into a recruitment process that was never designed around the life that they are actually living. And then when they struggle, we call that a problem with the person. Now I think we need to look again. This isn't just a confidence problem. Between January and March 2026, around 1 million young people aged 16 to 24 in the UK were not in employment, education or training. That's 13.5% of that age group. And health is a major part of this. In 2024-2025, 45% of young people who were NEET reported having a disability, right? So among disabled and people who were NEET, mental health was the main reported health problem, of 42.6% in 2025 compared to 24.3% in 2011. So yes, let's talk about employability, let's talk about skills, let's talk about confidence, where confidence is generally the issue. But please don't show me numbers like that and then tell me the whole answer is people need to become more job ready. Because maybe the route into work also needs some work. Maybe recruitment needs to become people ready. And that's where I think our conversation about accessibility is far too small. Accessibility is bigger than reasonable adjustments. Because when we talk about organizations and they talk about accessible recruitment, one of the first things they often say is, if you require reasonable adjustments, please let us know. Good. Reasonable adjustments matter, they are important, and for disabled applicants, employers have legal duties around them. But reasonable adjustments are not the same thing as accessibility. They are part of accessibility. They are not the whole thing, because somebody does not need a diagnosis to find your recruitment process difficult to access. They don't need to identify as disabled. They don't need a doctor's letter. They don't need to know the right words. They don't even need to understand why they're struggling. They can simply encounter a barrier. That's the bit I think we're missing. Access can be financial. Can a person afford to take part in your recruitment process? You might reimburse their train fare, fine, but can they find the £40 first? Do they need interview clothes, childcare, mobile data, a laptop, 3 separate journeys? Are you holding an assessment centre during hours when they are caring for someone? When we'll say we'll reimburse you, we sometimes forget that reimbursement still requires the person to have the money first. For somebody with £12 in their account, that's not a small detail. That's access. Access can be digital. You tell somebody to apply online. Fine. What does online actually require? A laptop, a particular browser, Microsoft account, a PDF, a Word document, a stable internet connection, a portal that times out, uploading their CV and then typing the entire CV in your system again? Because apparently the CV just wasn't enough. And now, they need the exact month and year of every job they've ever had. Explain every gap. Explain why they left. Write a supporting statement. Tell you why they need or want the role. Tell you why they're suitable. 1,000 words before anybody has even spoken to them. What exactly are we testing here? Because access can be about knowing the rules. And this is a huge one, right? Recruitment has a language. And if you already know that language, you may not even notice it exists. Competency-based questions. Give me an example. Tell us about yourself. Demonstrate impact. Use STAR. Cultural fit. Stakeholder management. These phrases make sense when you've spent enough time around workplaces that use them. But imagine you're 19. Or maybe you're outside work for 3 years. Or your experience comes from caring for somebody. Or volunteering, or college, or personal project, or you've never had somebody teach you what employers are secretly asking for. Now listen to this question. Tell me about your experience. Experience doing what? Where? How much? How recent? Can I talk about college? Does caring count? Can I talk about something I did for myself? How long should my answer be? What are you scoring? We call that an open question, but sometimes an open question is really a decoding task. And then we judge the candidate on how well they decoded us, which leads to Access being emotional, right? This is where the conversation about confidence can become lazy. Somebody can be rejected or has been rejected like 30 times, right? They've been unemployed for a year, right? It's not worked. Money is running out. People around them keep asking when they're going to get a job. They finally get an interview and we're surprised they are nervous. Then we write lacked confidence. Okay. But what are we assuming confidence means? Eye contact, fast answers, polished voice, being able to sell yourself, never asking for the question again, never pausing. Because anxiety during a high stakes interview doesn't automatically tell me whether somebody can do the job. It tells me they are anxious during a high stakes interview. Those are not the same pieces of evidence. Access can be about thinking and processing, right? You ask somebody a 6-part question, they answer 4 parts, and we say they didn't fully answer the question. Or maybe your question had 6 bloody parts. You give somebody extra processing time, great, but you don't give them the question beforehand. So next time you give them the question beforehand, then somebody writes the answer feels rehearsed. You then let them use notes and write. They rely heavily on notes. You say take your time, then you score them down for long pauses. Can you see the problem? Every time they clear one barrier, you put another one 20 meters down the road. That's the accessibility triathlon. And this is why reasonable adjustments are not enough. Because if the entire system is built around one narrow idea of the ideal candidate, the reasonable adjustment box at the bottom of the form cannot fix that. Think about what we're asking the person to do. First, notice they're going to struggle. But, even accepting that I'm struggling here, right? And recognizing that maybe it isn't a me thing. Then knowing you're allowed to ask for something different. Then knowing what would help. Then knowing what to call it. Then deciding whether to tell you something personal. And then trusting you enough to tell you. Then ask. And then hope that asking doesn't change how you see them before you've even decided whether you want them. That's a lot of work. So yes, keep asking people what they need. Individual needs matter, but don't make the individual responsible for fixing every barrier your system created. I don't need to know how you have anxiety before I give you clear interview instructions. I don't need to know you're dyslexic before I write a question clearly. I don't need your medical history before I tell you what the interview will involve. And I definitely don't need a diagnosis before I tell you the salary. Accessibility should respond to the barrier without always demanding the biography. So now let's think about the NEET problem, And this is why I really want to put those up, not in education or training, at the center of this conversation. Because if we generally, and not in employment, right? Because if we generally want more people in work, we cannot only build programs designed to change a young person and send them back into the exact same door. Imagine this. We spend money teaching somebody confidence. Then recruitment rewards a person who already knows professional language. We teach them interview skills, and interviewers use fake questions and hidden scoring rules. We teach them resilience. Then they go through rejection after rejection without useful feedback. We give them travel support, but they still need the money up front. We tell them volunteering counts, and the interviewer treats the corporate example as stronger. We tell them Ask for adjustments, then every new person makes them explain their needs again. Recruiter, hiring manager, assessment provider, second interview, onboarded. At some point, they're not applying for a job anymore. They're managing their access through your organisation. So what is your recruitment process actually measuring? Because this is the question underneath all of it. Imagine your application asks somebody to remember exact dates, explain employment gaps, write long answers, understand professional language, have recent workplace examples, use a laptop, travel, find money up front, speak confidently, make eye contact, answer quickly, no star, and sell themselves. Then somewhere at the end we ask, can they do the job? Hang on. Just wait a second here. Let's pause. We've tested an awful lot of things first. Which one from all of those things actually matter? Because your recruitment process might not be finding the person who is best at the job. It might be finding the person who is best at your recruitment process. And I know what some people will say. They'll say, but everybody needs to meet the standard. Yes. Keep the standard. Keep it. 1000% keep it. But question the route. If the job requires fast decisions under pressure, test that. If somebody has to present to clients, test presentation. If the work depends on clear spoken communication, assess that. If the role requires analysing complex information, assess that. Accessibility does not mean pretending the job has no requirements. It means being clear about which requirements belong to the job and which ones we accidentally added through recruitment. Giving someone a clear question does not give them the answer. Giving them more time does not give them the skill. Allowing a volunteering example doesn't invent experience. Removing a £40 travel barrier doesn't make them more competent. It just removes something that had nothing to do with the capability you wanted to see. Assess the evidence, not the friction. So for example, somebody pauses. She doesn't know it's the interpretation. Maybe, or she's thinking. Somebody asks you to repeat the question. They weren't listening. Maybe, or your question was confusing. Somebody doesn't make eye contact. Poor communicator. Maybe, or they are concentrating. Somebody hasn't worked recently. Weak experience. Maybe, or their skill came from education, caring, volunteering, or a personal project. And then somebody else walks in, right? They're polished, they're charming, they answer immediately, they've got perfect eye contact, they know stars so they can articulate in the way that you want. They sound confident. Fantastic candidate. Maybe. Or they're fantastic at interviews. Those aren't always the same thing. And this is why recruitment is part of the system. We often talk about those with NEET as though that the problem exists somewhere over there. Young people are NEET, right? They're not in employment, not in education or training, right? That young people lack confidence, that young people need skills, that young people need support. But employers and recruitment systems aren't standing outside the problem looking in, they're part of the route back into work. That means the way we design recruitment affects who can get through it. If your system rewards recent corporate experience, you'll see more capability in people who've already had corporate access, right? If it rewards fast verbal answers, you'll see more capability in people who think and speak quickly under interview conditions. If it rewards polished professional language, you'll see more capability in people who already know that language. If taking part costs money, you'll see more of the people who can afford to take part. And when we look at the people who made it through and say, see, they were the strongest. Maybe, but your process helped decide what strong was allowed to look like. That's the bigger accessibility question. This isn't only, do disabled candidates have reasonable adjustments? Of course they should, right? What are we talking about here? The bigger question now is, who can access the opportunity in the first place? Who understands the rules? Who can afford the journey? Who has the technology? Who feels safe asking for help? Who has examples they're willing to, value? Like, you're willing to value. They've got values, but the examples that they provide, maybe you don't value them. And who can process the information, you are giving them? And who can get through the process without already knowing how recruitment works? Who can get through your process with enough clarity to show you what they can actually do? That is accessibility. And for me, that is why accessibility belongs right at the center of any serious conversation about needs. And please measure whether your recruitment process works, because if employers keep saying we can't find the talent, we can't find the skills, and people aren't ready, then I have another question. Do the people who score highest in your recruitment process actually become the strongest employees? I want you to check interview score, performance later, retention, progression. Look at the pattern. Recruitment is supposed to help you predict who can succeed in your role. So test whether it does. Because if the people who perform best at interview are the people who perform best in the job, great, fantastic. But if the people who perform best at interview are not the people who perform best in the job, what exactly was the interview measuring? And we say we have a NEET problem. We say we have an economic inactivity problem. We say employers cannot find the skills they need, and our answer is to often ask the person for more confidence, more resilience, better interview skills, a better CV, more motivation, a better ability to sell themselves. Some people will need support with some of those things. Of course they will. But that cannot be the entire answer, because if the route into employment quietly requires money, recent experience, the right technology, professional language, knowledge of hidden rules, confidence under observation, fast thinking, transport time, and the confidence to tell a stranger about something personal when the system doesn't work for you, then recruitment may start filtering people by access to opportunity before it ever gets to capability. And then we're surprised when the people furthest from work remains furthest from work. So yes, help people become ready for work, but brave enough to turn the question around. Is work ready for them? That's the question. You need to be brave enough to turn that question around, right? Is work ready for them? Is your application accessible? Is your interview accessible? Are your questions clear? Are you valuing different kinds of experience? Are you removing barriers before somebody has to ask? Are you measuring the actual job? And when somebody struggles with a recruitment process, don't immediately ask what's wrong with this candidate. Ask, what did the process require from them? Don't only ask what reasonable adjustments do they need. Ask, which barrier did we create? And because performance in a recruitment process, right, doesn't equate to whether they can do a job, right? Ask whether your recruitment process performed well at finding their talent. When you think about when you are going through this process, it's about finding their talent. Because if we're not serious about reducing NEET, we need to stop treating access to work as somebody else's problem. The root matters too.